Today on Facing Life Head On.
The doctor called me over. There was definitely a different tone to his voice.
We were leaving it in God's hands.
When Scott and Sara Sautel first met, it was love at first sight. Both from big families, they were excited about starting a family of their own, and soon after getting married, that new chapter in their life began. You had been married for 2 years when you got some really big news. Sara, what was that?
We found out we were indeed pregnant, which was one of the best feelings I've ever had.
It was the absolute proudest moment of my life right there. I'm like, I'm going to be a father.
When the Sautels found out they were having twins, they couldn't have been happier. The joy turned to concern and close to tragedy. Tell us about where it went from there, Sara.
It was approximately 27-week ultrasound. I went into my doctor's office, and the sonographer who was doing the ultrasound, I could tell things were not right. Things were a little different. She was having me change positions a lot. She was taking more time, wasn't talking to us as much as in the other ultrasounds, and I kind of knew at that point something had changed. She then left us and said that the doctor would be in to talk to us, and he did come in and let us know that although one twin was fine from what they could see in the ultrasound, the other twin, they detected a heart defect. So they referred me to a hospital in Chicago to a specialist, which we did go to that appointment, and then it was confirmed that the one twin did have a heart defect.
And did they tell you that that was life-threatening?
They had said there was a possibility that she might not even live in utero. You know, there was that possibility that she would pass away before she was born. They weren't sure. You know, they always have said that there were no guarantees with pregnancy, and although they can see a lot in ultrasounds, they have to wait until after the baby is born to really see what is going on.
How did that news hit you emotionally, Scott? What did that do to you?
I was praying, and I was just hoping that it was something, there was a mistake. I was just, I didn't want to believe that there was something wrong. I just didn't.
So after the news, what was life like?
We have a very strong, supportive family. We had a lot of people coming in asking what they could do, and unfortunately there wasn't anything we could do. What we basically did was we tried to learn as much as we could about what was going on, and we had several people that offered advice, and basically we got a lot of ideas from a lot of people on what was going on and what we should expect. And a lot of that wasn't good news, and a lot of that was not positive news, but we decided we're going to be there for each other, and we're going to whatever comes, because we're going to be a family no matter what.
Now, in many cases, when parents find out that they're carrying an unborn child whose condition is incompatible with life, they're advised to abort that baby. Obviously, abortion wasn't a consideration for you.
Never an option.
Why not?
We did not believe in it. It's wrong. We respect life way too much for that. It's not the way life happens. You do not kill.
Every child is a miracle from God. We would never have done anything differently, even if doctors suggested. We were willing to take whatever happened and deal with it and go from there. We were leaving it in God's hands.
When we return, the Sautels continue the journey.
After a lot of talks from Sarah's father, we just can't, it's not for us to understand.
Earlier, we met Scott and Sara Sautel, an Illinois couple happy to be expecting twins. But when doctors told them one of the babies might not make it, Scott and Sara battled with mixed emotions. The news was threatening for one of your twins. However, the news was good for the other. Mm-hmm. What kind of an emotional tug-of-war was that for you to know that one child was in very much danger while the other was healthy?
To try to feel both emotions, I was so excited, so overjoyed that I was going to be having a baby, and at the same time, I was so scared, I was so afraid, it was almost a sinking feeling, I have a baby that I possibly will lose. I can't even put it into words how it felt trying to feel both emotions at the same time.
Did you ever get to the point where you felt that it was unfair, the position you were in?
I did wonder why God would do that to us, and I couldn't find a reason why. And then after a lot of talks from Sarah's father, we just can't, it's not for us to understand.
In their search for answers, Scott and Sara turned to their pastor. He connected them with the Haven Network, an organization that specializes in caring for couples who learn their unborn baby is diagnosed with a terminal condition.
The Haven Network is an organization that journeys with family from the time that they are told that their baby that they are expecting is going to die. Their baby in utero has been diagnosed with a terminal condition. And so we journey with these families through that pregnancy, through the birth, through the funeral, and for 1 year later. And for some families, into the next pregnancy. But it's a journey so that families are not abandoned in their grief.
However short a person's life may be, Pastor Thies says these moments can and should be cherished.
God has given these parents a time to nurture a child, and it may be a short time, or it may be a surprisingly long time with what they found out. But whatever it is, the Haven's able to add to what any pastor could give the couple in walking alongside them and helping them to value that opportunity that God has given to be parents for whatever time it might be to this child, and what a privilege they can show them, what a privilege it is to be able to do that, even though it might be a hard and trying time.
But the Haven Network says there is a growing trend of parents who choose abortion instead.
Well, babies who have terminal conditions that are diagnosed before birth have been around for a long time. But in our culture today, those babies, many of them, their lives are ended before they even have the chance to complete their journey of life. Even if a family is pressured into terminating that pregnancy, aborting that baby, and they may not even view it as a baby, there still is an innate sense that we all have as human beings and that we have offspring. And we know that when this is interrupted, when this life is destroyed, it is a natural thing of our human nature to feel guilt. And with guilt, we have despair, and they really can't talk about it. You see, when it's a secret, and when you have a baby whose life has been upheld as valuable, then the whole family has a story to tell for generations.
When we return, Scott and Sara talk about their week with baby Grace.
I am proud to say that I had a beautiful daughter, and I love her to this day even more.
Whether you're a student needing answers, a parent needing help, or a concerned citizen wanting to make a difference, Life Issues Institute has the resources you need to put your values into action. Life Issues Institute is an international educational organization committed to protecting innocent human life. Life Issues Institute knows what it takes. That's why millions throughout the world turn here for help. Life Issues Institute has authored more pro-life publications than any other entity in the world, and its materials are printed in over 30 languages. Radio broadcasts, newsletters, and a website filled to the brim with the answers you're looking for are just a click away. Go to facinglife.tv and click on the link to Life Issues Institute to find out more about how you can change the heart of a nation.
Scott and Sara Sautel had experienced a normal pregnancy until week 27, when the unexpected happened. Sara, you went into premature labor. What happened then?
We had made arrangements. I was going to deliver in a hospital in Chicago, where the specialists would be, so that they could perform the open heart surgery if need be right after delivery. So I had just got everything set up at my doctor's office, and we had made plans for when I was 36 weeks to travel up to Chicago to have the babies. I had just gotten home, and my water broke. So that was, again, something just unexpected. I had just left the doctor's. They just said everything was fine, and so I drove myself to the hospital, and about an hour later, they had me packed up in a helicopter and took me to the hospital in Chicago. And then the next day is when they took me in to have the babies.
And the first one born was Sam. And he came out healthy?
Yes. He came out. The doctors called me over. I picked him up. I brought him over to Sara, and she was able to see him, and then they took him back, and then they took him down in the NICU.
And after that came Grace.
Yes, and the doctor called me over. There was definitely a different tone to his voice, and he brought me over, and he kind of guided me. He was a very good man. He told me what to kind of expect when I came over there, kind of whispering to me, and then I picked her up, and I brought her over, and we got to see her for the first time, and she had her limbs were shorter, and she was, like I said, she was like 3 pounds. But I got to hold her for a while, and then they took her back to the NICU, and it was probably another good 4 hours before I got to see them again.
Days after Gracie's birth, she took a turn for the worst. Tell us what happened.
7 days after she was born, we walked into the special care nursery, and I looked at her, and I knew right away something was different. Her color had turned to more of an ashen color. Her breathing was more labored, and the nurse, when I looked at the nurse, it's just one of those looks, that came from her eyes, that she didn't really say anything, but I knew. And then they had put us in a room and told us that the doctors would come in and let us know what was going on, which, you try to prepare yourself, but you can't. The doctors came in and told us that her body was so small, it it couldn't keep up with all of the problems, her heart problems that she was having, and so it was starting to shut down. So they asked us at the hospital, they asked us, how do you want to do this? Do you want to just sit with her on a machine and watch her, to be with her, or do you want us to bring her to you? And we wanted to see our daughter without hover tubes. You know, we wanted to hold her.
And that's what you did. Tell me about that.
She was wrapped in this hand knitted blanket, and then she had a matching cap on. And she came in, and Sarah held her, and we just talked to her. We tried to tell her as much about ourselves and her family, and we just tried to make her as comfortable. We sang to her, and then I was holding her, and we just continued. We just tried to share whatever thoughts we had with her, and then she passed away while I was holding her, and it was.
She died peacefully.
Yes, she did.
So even though your role in relationship between son and daughter was brief, it's no less precious in your view, is it?
No. Nope. I am proud to say that I had a beautiful daughter, and I love her to this day even more.
Well, Sarah, what do you want other parents to understand about your situation and experience?
They're not alone. You know, you never know when this will happen. It could happen to anybody, and it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel scared. You go through all of the emotions, and it's all normal. There is no right or wrong way to feel. You know, everybody grieves differently, and you know, there's help out there.
And that help is what you found in the Haven Network, isn't it?
Yes. Our pastor at my church had called and asked if it was okay for someone from the Haven Network to call us. And we received a phone call from a volunteer there, and very kind, not pushy, not nosy, just